Welcome back to the arcade. Well, we got the Wells-Gardner 4600 chassis out of the Gorf, and it's on the table here. So it's time to install a cap kit. I went ahead and I got a complete cap kit because, believe it or not, I thought I had, as I said previously, put a cap kit in this 15 years ago. I've had the game for 20 years. But I got looking at the boards that I've taken out so far. I haven't really looked underneath the main board yet because it's still on the chassis, on the mount. But looking at everything else, I don't believe this chassis has ever been out of the monitor. I believe this is an all original with all original caps from when the game was new. And when I got the game 20 years ago, it was in excellent condition. And as you could see from the previous videos, it still had a nice picture. The only thing it had was that started to develop that little tick, the little jump in the vertical on the picture, as I demonstrated in the last video. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and put a cap kit in it. Complete cap kit, plus the capacitor. This one right here, which is causing the little jump in the vertical. It's a high voltage cap, and what it's doing is starting to short out internally, and it's causing I guess a little, when it shorts, it causes it to jump. But and also this filter capacitor right here, which doesn't come in the cap kit, either one of them. Here's the replacement for that cap that's giving me the problems, a white one that replaces the black one there. And also the filter capacitor, well, here's the new one right here. As you can see, it's quite a bit smaller, but whoops, it's rated for the same thing. 330 microfarads at 250 volts. So we're going to replace that. Plus, got the cap kit from Peter at Arcade Parts and Repair, and it came with a little sheet telling you where each cap goes and the value. And of course, this is his Wells-Gardner 4600 series cap kit, Mega Deluxe cap kit. Of course, from arcadepartsandrepair.com. So now all we have to do is go ahead and start installing the caps. What I've done, I've already taken them out the package and I've already labeled them. The ones that still had the little cardboard tags on them, I just wrote the numbers down. And the ones that didn't have a cardboard tag attached, I went ahead and put my own little tag on them. And I got each one of them laid out for each board. And this is the one for the main board right here. So we're all set up. The Blackjack 4000 is heated up. The Weller soldering station is all heated up and ready to go. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, the first thing I need to do is to go ahead and get the main chassis off of this metal mounting plate. And I was under the impression, like I said, it's been a long time since I pulled one of these apart. But right here is the horizontal width coil, and that's mounted to this part of the chassis. I was thinking it was mounted to the part that stays with the tube, but it's not. So I didn't have to unsolder this before I took it out from the chassis. But anyway, it's already disconnected, so I don't have to worry about that. What we have to do is take the screws out that's holding the board to this metal piece, and it's got these plastic pieces that the board slides into, one on the front side and one on the back side. So I believe if I just unscrew this front bracket right here, it may just slide out of the back bracket. I don't know. Like I say, it's been a while, so let's give it a try here. It's a total of 4 screws on this, but I believe if I just take, because I think that bracket is split. I don't think it's hooked together. But let's find out. Okay, got those 2 screws out, and let's see. Yes, it just pulls out, and here's the metal chassis. We can leave the plastic on the back. This is the horizontal width coil, and these are usually broken. They usually break right here on this end where it goes through the part of the middle of the chassis. But this one is in pristine condition. And that's the first one I've seen that isn't broken. Usually right on this end, the little tube, which I believe is a cardboard tube, usually is all brittle and brown and cracking apart right there. So yeah, that's like brand new. You cannot get these. Supposedly, I believe it's Arcade Parts and Repair was supposed to make some of these. Not 100% sure, but somebody is supposed to try to make these. But right now, you can't get them. So, got to be careful with it. Okay. Now that we got that, we ought to be able to slide this other bracket off. Let's see. Actually, it won't come off because of this little metal bracket right here. And there is a screw we can take loose, but that's a little booger. Let's see. Yeah, it'd be best to take that off if we can. So, let me see if I can find my sockets here and see if I got one that'll fit that. Okay, well I just happened to find this nut driver in my toolbox, and it doesn't have a size on it. It's a little big, but it is a 6-point, and I believe it will take it loose. It's a little loose on there, but it still takes it loose. So we'll take that little bracket off, and I'll just set the screw over here with it. I think it'll be okay. Now we should be able to get this bracket off. And the reason it has to come off is because it has this piece under the bottom here, which will kind of be in the way of us getting to some of these capacitors under here. Okay, so all right, we got this apart, so let's go ahead and start with the main board. And zoom in here a little bit. And there's no rhyme or reason to this, but first let's go ahead and change the capacitor that was causing all this problem to start with. And that's this one right here. The original capacitor in here is a 0.01 microfarad at 1,500 volts. And the replacement is a 0.1 microfarad at 1,600 volts DC. So just 100 volts higher, and that's fine. So that's a high voltage capacitor. All right. And I hate it when they bend the the ends over when they solder them in, but this is definitely factory. See how they bend the little end of it over? I hate it when they do that. All right. Just have to deal with it. The way you deal with that, if the tip is sticking out like this one is, you got to put the hole of your desoldering iron here and just slide it up on there. And when the solder starts to melt, you can just bend it right around and straighten it out. All right. The other one is the same way. Like I say, I hate it when they bend it like that. See if I can get this started up. It's flat. It's shorting against that one right there, but that's on the same pad, so it doesn't matter. But that's why I hate it when they do bend them over like that, because if they leave it sticking out that far and bend them over, if it was touching the one next to it and it didn't happen to be the same pad, well, then you got a problem. All right, it may actually be soldered on there, so what I'm going to do is I done pulled it loose, so I'm just going to heat this up and pull it through. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do. If I heat it up, maybe better do that with the soldering iron. And it never hurts to add a little fresh solder to it. Okay. I just pulled it out. Now I'll come back and clean the solder out. Okay. All right, now this capacitor is not an electrolytic, so it doesn't matter which way you put it in. But I always like to put them to where the identificating numbers are on top. So we're going to bend the leads opposite of the top there. And it fits like a glove. And it's so thick that it holds itself in place. So all right, I like to see what I'm doing, so I'm going to have to put my magnifying visor on. Okay, now some people like to leave these on until they finish the job, but I like to clip them as I go. All right, that one's done. Next, let's do the filter capacitor. Now the filter capacitor, that one is not going to fit on my tip. That is a wide terminal right there. I'm pretty sure it's not going to fit on that tip, and I think I got my, well, now I don't have my biggest tip on there, but that's not going to fit. So what I'm going to try on this, oh boy, it's always something, ain't it? I'm going to add some new solder to start with. And actually, this one has 3 terminals on it. Actually, it's got 4 terminals. Those hold it in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, wow. Yeah, it's got 4 terminals on it. I didn't see all those. That's going to be a bear. Okay. Well, first let me just turn my soldering iron up a little bit, because those are some big terminals. Turn it up to 700 degrees. Alright, what I'm going to try to do is try to get on the side of the terminals. I'm going to turn my temperature up on this too. And I'm going to see if I can't suck away some solder on the sides. And that's just laughing at it. I'm going to turn the temperature all the way up on this. Now I think I know why people don't like to change these filter caps. Let me try this one here. Yeah, that's just not doing it. All right, I'm going to have to gang up on it. I'm going to use both together here. See if I can get something moving. I believe it looked like that they're twisted in. That one right there is twisted in. Guess they didn't want it coming out, huh? See if I can twist this one back. This one is twisted too, so hopefully the twisting motion is going to break the solder loose. And this one here don't look twisted, but I'm going to twist it a little bit, hopefully to break the solder loose. This one might be twisted a little bit. All right, it feels loose. Okay, got that booger out. Look at the terminals on that thing. That is massive compared to the snap-in that we're going to put back in it. I hope that they're going to line up. Let's see. Pin 2 and 4 is no connection. Pin 3 is a 200 volt at 330 microfarad. And I guess pin 1, it don't say, but I guess that pin is negative. So, okay, it has just a line for the negative right there. This one has a 2 on it, that one has a 3 on it, and that one has a 4 on it. So, in other words, that's the negative and this is the positive, and these are just no connection. They're just to hold it into the board. So the negative is the one that's all by itself. So let's go back to the board here where it goes. And sure enough, on the board that has negative and the center one is positive. So we're only concerned with those two. And guess what? It doesn't line up with these original holes. But it has 2 additional holes right here. And this one is on the positive, the negative side, and this one is on the positive side. So we're going to have to take the solder out of this 2 position, and hopefully that's going to fit right in there. So let's do that. That's what you run into with these filter caps a lot of times. There's nothing in these holes. It's just alternative holes for different size capacitors. So we'll just clean the pads off. And let's see if the new one will snap in. Alright, so that's positive. See if it's labeled on this side. Okay. It's labeled. That's positive and that's negative. And guess what? It still don't line up. Let me try it from this side. It's got to go there and there, and it's not going to line up. Even if I spread those apart, I don't think it's going to line up. It might. Nope, it ain't going to do it. Okay, well, what do you do when the capacitor don't fit? All right, let's focus in here. These wide slots are the original connections. That one is the negative, and this one was the positive. This one and this one is just to hold it down. No connection made. So I open up these two holes for a smaller size capacitor. That's the negative and that's the positive, and they still won't fit. They're too far apart for this capacitor. So the only thing to do is, this is negative, this is the positive trace, is this whole area right here. So what I can do is I can measure the distance between the 2 points. I'm going to put it through the negative point and solder it to that. But right here I'm going to have to move it over and drill a new hole in the PC board, and then scrape off some of the masking, and then just solder it right to that trace. Just make a new hole. And then I'll go ahead and I'll just solder up all these original old holes. That's what you got to do sometimes. So, oh gosh. So now I got to go get my drill and drill a hole. Okay, well, I found my drill. It's a little overkill, but that's what I got to work with. I found a drill bit that is slightly bigger than the terminal on the capacitor. And the hole that I'm going to use for the negative is already in here. It's, let's see, it's on the wrong angle, and it's a rectangular hole, so I'm going to go ahead and drill that one out too and make it round. I believe this drill bit is a, let's see, a 3/32. Okay. But your mileage may vary depending on what capacitor and the size of the capacitor leads. So, throat's getting a little dry here. All right, let me zoom in here. All right, this right here is the negative that I'm going to use. So first I'm going to drill that out. That looks awful big. Yep, that's kind of big. Maybe I should have went with the next size down. All right. Let's try a 5/64 for the next hole. You can always make them bigger, but once you make them too big, you can't go back. Okay. Well, now I got to figure out where I want to put this one. So I'm going to put the negative in there. I'm going to straighten this out. Since they're not going to snap in anymore, I'm just going to go ahead and straighten the ends up. Alright, so I'm going to take the negative terminal and put it in the hole I just drilled. And then I'm going to give this a little twist. And I put it in the wrong hole, didn't I? Yep. Okay, that's the right hole. Okay. Now I'm going to give it a little twist. What that's going to do, hopefully, is scribe a line on there. And if it did, I don't see it. All right, let me try that again. Okay, it did scribe a line on it. And that line is right here. This is the original hole that was made for the capacitor. And right here, so I can drill a hole in anywhere in that line right there. So I'm going to put it, there's nothing on the bottom side of the board. Everything will line up fine. So I'm going to drill it right here. Okay, see that new hole I drilled right there, which is right next to that other one? It was close, but it wouldn't quite make it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scrape the mask off around the hole. And I'm going to scrape it down around the negative side too. Okay, there's our two holes that we're going to solder the capacitor into. So this is the negative side, and this is the positive side. This is the negative, that's the positive. And I'm going to do something I hate for anybody else to do. No, I don't think I'm going to do that. It's actually holding itself in. So let me go ahead and put some solder on it. Okay, just to tack that one in. Okay, soldered in. Now I'm just going to fill up these original holes here. Don't have to, but it just make it look better. Well, that one it looks like it pulled up a little bit of the solder mask there. Okay. Just had to add a little more onto it. Shoo! Okay, well, sometimes that's what happens. You kind of get sidetracked with these little deals where you have to make something work that's not designed to work in it. But we got a new filter cap now. All right, so now we can get down to the business of just putting the regular caps in. Let me make sure my soldering station is turned back down to its normal temperature. Okay, might as well start with the list. So we're going to do the main board. So let's go ahead and start with C607, which is a 10 microfarad at 250 volts. Okay, C607. Here's C607. 10 microfarad at 250 volts. Okay, now we just have to find out where it is on the board. It didn't come with a map cap, cap map. So we're just going to have to locate it on the board. And probably the easiest way to do that is to look at the top side because it is labeled on the top and bottom. So we're looking for C607. All right, well here's 624, 619. Let's see, 623, 622, 608. Ought to be somewhere around here. Sometimes it's the hardest part, is looking for the cap to replace. And guess what? I don't see it. There's 610. There's 608, 628, 614, 613, 633, 619, 624. Says it's on the main board. C607. C607. There it is right there on the board, but there is no C607. So this chassis doesn't have it, so I'm not going to put it in. Okay. So I'm just going to put a asterisk or a little star beside it. That's funny, it's not listed on this board, on this list as not populated. C202 is not populated on all video interface boards, but that's the only thing it says. Okay. All right, on to the next one. C614. All right, 614. And here it is right here. 33 microfarad at 50 volts. 33 at 63 volts. That'll work. 614. All right, let's find 614 here. I think I remember seeing it. 610, 614 right here. And it is marked positive and negative. That looks correct. Always want to check before you take it out, because sometimes there are mistakes on the mask label, on a silkscreen label on the board, and if you go by that, you might be messing up sometimes. Okay, this ain't hot enough. Okay. And this one is a 33 microfarad at 25 volts. And we're replacing it with a 33 at 63 volts. Okay. But it is 33 microfarad. I hate these wires. They're so stiff and they always get in the way. Okay. Now I like it when they hold themselves in. But if they don't hold themselves in, what I like to do is bend one lead down, and that way when I solder the other one I can hold down on it and it'll hold pressure up on the other side. So I can hold it down and solder that side, let it cool, then pull this one back up straight and solder this one. Okay, and what I do is when I put one in, I usually just draw a circle around it on the paper, letting me know that that one has been done. All right, C622. 622. Here it is right here. A 1000 microfarad at 35 volt. That's what's on the chart here. So let's see if we can find that one. C622. And here it is right here. C622. And positive negative is silk screened correctly on this side. And it looks correct on this side too. Okay. I'm going to have to start adding a little solder to this. After all, 6C22, yeah. These have been on here a while. Since I believe them to be original. This thing just don't seem like it's getting hot. Hope my heating element isn't going bad. I've never changed it, so it's always a possibility. definitely not getting hot. That is just weird. It's like it's not getting hot. Yeah, something ain't right with it. I wonder if it's where it's plugged in. And let me check it real quick. Okay, I plugged it into another outlet. Maybe it was just not getting a good connection there. All right, let's go ahead and put the C622 in, which is a 1000 microfarad at 35 volt. Okay, C622. Next is C625. C625. Okay, that's supposed to be a 10 microfarad at 250 volts. 10 microfarad at 250 volts. Boy, this paper they put on there is tough. Doesn't want to come off. Okay, the C625, so let's locate that. C625 is right there. Okay. All right, it looks like it's marked correctly. All right, let's see if this is working now. C625 right here. Yep, seems like it's working now. All right. 10 microfarad at 160 volts is what came out of it. And we're putting a 10 microfarad at 250 volts. That's positive. Okay, C625 is all done. Now, let's do C608. $47 at 250. $47 at 250. See if there's an easier way to get this stuff off. Let me cut up the side of the leg with a pair of scissors here. That's better, but it's not all coming off. Okay. 608, 47 at 250. Let's see if we can find it here. C608 right here. Yeah, there it is right there. right, the one that came out. It's a 47 at 200 volts. And we're putting in a 47 at 250. Okay. Add a little solder to that and clear that hole back out. Alright, that ought to do it. Okay, now we can cross that one off the list. 608. C617. C617. There's two of them. And we'll just start with this one. And again, let me try cutting up the leg. That seems to work for the most part. All right. C617, let's find it. And looking right at it right here, C617. Right here. C617. Right there. That one came out no problem. And this one is a 1 microfarad at 50 volt. And this is a 1 microfarad at 50 volt. Same thing. Get up there. Okay. C617, cross it off the list. 623, 470 at 35 volts. $623. Here it is. 470 at 35 volts. That's correct. At least that tape residue, you don't have to get it off because the solder is below the tape residue line. So that's one good thing. Okay, C623. All right, let's locate that. 623. C623 is right here. Negative and positive is marked correctly on this side. And it's correct on this side. Okay. And I've noticed most of these caps that I've taken off this board is a Jamicon, Jamicon. Huh. I wonder if they are the original caps that came on this chassis. All right. 470 at 25, 470 at 35. Okay. And that was 623. It goes right here. Make sure I get positive and negative correct. Okay, here it is. Okay, now we can mark 623 off the list. Next is 632. And that's a 47 at 50 volts, 632. Okay, here's 632. And this one's 47 at 50 volts. Okay. Same deal. Cut off this tape. And there's a mess. Okay. 632. Let's find out where it is. Not too many left. That's 633, 613, 624. This one here, that's 619, 632. Where is 632? Is that going to be another one that's missing? I sure don't see it. Six 633. No, that's the bipolar. That's not it, but it ought to be close to that. Usually they run them pretty close to each other. 613. That's the next one. 632. Where is 632? I sure don't see a 632. But I'm half blind, so I don't even see a spot for it. 634, 632, right there. It's not used. It's not on this board. So 632. Can put a asterisk by that. So we don't need that one. Okay. Now let's do 613. 613 is a 220 microfarad at 50 volt, and this is a 220 microfarad at 50 volts. Microfarad. Got to be easier way to get this tape off of these capacitors. If anybody knows the easier way to do it, leave a comment in the comment section. All right. 220 at 50 volts. 220 at 50 volts. C613. All right, we got to find it. There's, let's see, 619, 633, C614. Don't tell me this is another one that's not on the board. I believe it's not on the board. C613. I'm spending more time looking for phantom capacitors. 613. No, here it is right here. Okay, found it. 220 at 50 volts. Negative, positive, looks good on the silk screen. $6.13. Okay, there it is right there. Okay, negative and positive silk screen looks good. All right. And it is a 220 at 25 volt. And we're replacing it with a 220 at 50 volt. $220 at 50 volt. Okay. And my technique here works pretty good. What I do is, like I say, I bend one leg over, make sure it's pushed all the way up against the board, and the other leg stays straight. Now it'll lean down a little bit, but once you start putting solder on it, you can hold down on that and it holds it back up in place without having to hold it from the bottom. So it works out pretty good, most of the time anyway. And sometimes I can hold it down while I add the solder to it, just like this. Just straighten it back up. And just like that. C13 is done. Now C619. 1 microfarad at 50 volts. C619. 1 microfarad at 50 volts. Of course, I could just take and clip them off and not even worry about that. They're long enough. Guess that's an option. tearing up my thumbnail trying to pull these loose. That's how hard they're on there. All right, C619. Okay, here it is. Right here, I'm assuming it's this one right here. Negative on this side, positive on that, that's correct. 6C19, okay, right there. All right, 1 microfarad at 50 volts. Still Jamicon. Okay, C19 is done. 2 more to go. C624, 100 microfarad at 50 volts. C624. It's right here. 100 microfarad at 50 volts. Okay, C624. Let's find that. C624 is right next to 619. Okay, polarity looks right on the board. 6C24. Hundred microfarad at 25 volts. So we're replacing it with 100 microfarad at 50 volts. Okay, C624 off the list. One more left, the 6C33, and that's the 2.2 microfarad 50 volt bipolar cap. C633. Now, this looks like an electrolytic, but it's not. It's a bipolar. See, it's got .2 microfarad at 100 volts BP on it. There is no positive and negative on this, so it doesn't matter which way a bipolar goes in. Okay, we're back. Battery went dead in my camera, so I had to hook up the AC to it. So let's continue on. We were on the bipolar capacitor here. I don't remember if I already explained this before the camera lost power or not. So anyway, this is C633. It's a 2.2 microfarad 50 volt bipolar cap. And it looks just like an electrolytic cap, although it is bipolar, which means it doesn't have a positive and negative, so it doesn't matter which way you install it. So with that said, let's find 633 on the board. And let's see. Get everything untangled here. All right, 633. I remember seeing it somewhere. Okay. It's this blue capacitor right here. Huh. And it is labeled positive and negative on the board, but that is a bipolar cap because it's got a BP on it. All right, so let's pull it out and see. C633. Okay, there it is right there. And this one is bent over. Hate it when they bend them over. Said that before, didn't I? Okay. I have to see if I can't heat it up and pull it out. Or at least bend it up so I can get the desoldering iron hooked over it. Okay, am I getting the right one loose? Nope, getting the wrong one. It's this one right here, not that one. All right. So whatever that one was, I'll have to solder that one back. No biggie. All right, that happens from time to time. All right, we took out a 2.2 at 50 volts BP bipolar. And we're going to put back in a 2.2 microfarad at 100 volts. And it's a bipolar. It's weird that they got it labeled as plus and minus on the board. Even on this side, they got it labeled plus and minus. But, oh well. It is what it is. Okay, let's go ahead and mark C633 off the list. And that concludes the capacitors for the main board. So we're done with the main board. Okay, well, while we're here and at it, let's go ahead and touch up these headers. Now, 2, 3, 4, 6. There's 6-pin headers. 4, 5 of them. And there's one for the gauze right here. So, and then we got this one over here for the flyback. So, look at these real good. And these are all factory. They've never been reflowed. Don't know if you can pick this up. These are all factory solders. And they don't look like they're any cold solder joints on them. They actually look real good. Let's see, these down here. They actually look excellent. But we're going to reflow them anyway. Since they have never been touched up before, I'm just going to go ahead and reflow some new solder on them, because there's not much solder on them to suck off. So let me see how it goes here. Oh, I'm pushing this boards off here. Okay. Start with this header right here. Come on, baby, focus. Okay, as good as it's going to get. This particular one right here looks like it might be kind of a cold solder joint. That's the only one I see that kind of looks that way. All right. These are kind of big header pins, so I'm going to turn the soldering on up hot. Turn it up to about 725 to 726. I know that's hotter than normally would have it, but these are pretty big pins, and I like it hot. Get in there fast and get back out. So. Don't want to leave them on there long though, because it will melt that plastic and they'll start shifting in the holder. So I'm putting the iron on one side, letting it flow, and then bringing it over to the other side and let it flow all the way around it. Okay, that should do it for that. Now, let me bring these other ones in. Same thing to these. And when you're soldering, you can see the puddle when it starts to melt. You can see the heat just soaking around to the other side. And that way you know you got a good solder joint all the way around it. Okay, those are done. So let's do this next group. And these are on the vertical plug-in boards, or you want to call them daughter cards or whatever. So these pins are. That one there looks like it has a little cold solder joint starting. And this one here, right here, looks like it might be too, but the rest of them look pretty good. Like I say, these are a common problem on the 4600, so this is what you have to do anytime you're working on one. Uh-oh, that pin fell through. That ain't good. That's what I was trying to avoid. Okay, let's see. Okay. What it did was I just hooked a pair of 4 snips on there and then pushed it back in place. Let me turn that heat down just a little bit. Turn it down to about 650. That's still kind of high, but I don't want that to happen again. All right. Ah. They're trying to drop through again. I guess some would say it'd be best if I plugged the cards in, and that way they couldn't move, but I don't like putting heat on pins that have tension on them. Seems like to me the heat would take the tension out of them. But maybe that's just me. Okay. I think they're okay. And we do have these right here. Now these do still have the plug in them. And that's the one going to the flyback. So you know what? I'm going to leave the plug in those. Let's give it a try. Even though these look fine, Okay. That's all the header pins, so the main board is finished. Now it's kind of unusual. There are no capacitors on the neck board. A lot of monitors has plenty of capacitors on the neck board, but this one doesn't have a single one. All right. Now that we got this done, we can go ahead and put it back together. All right, let's do that. Let me get everything together I need. I'll be right back. Okay, I've got our mounting plate. So what we'll do is we'll just, well, before I do that, I need to clean this board off because it's going to be under the plate. All right. So I'm going to clean all the flux off of it. Just put some good old rubbing alcohol on there. Get around these header pins that we reflowed. And of course around the caps that we put in. Put some paper towels down here just to catch the runoff so it won't make too much of a mess. But you'll be able to see on the paper towel the flux that we get off because it'll stain the paper towel. A lot of people skip this process, but you really need to remove your flux. Because the flux, I guess, can not, for one thing, it's sticky a lot of times, and I guess it'll track dust and dirt and anything else, and I guess over time it can become conductive, which can cause problems. All right, we'll just let that run off. More paper towels. And we'll just pat it down. It's going to air dry anyway eventually. I don't have any air in here to blow it, but if you had air, you could blow it dry or just take a heat gun and but it'll dry on its own. No big deal. Now you can see. We get a majority of it off. As you can see quite a bit came off. But that's good enough. It doesn't have to be perfect. And before we put power to it, it'll certainly be dry. Okay, so let's go ahead and slide the board into the plastic mount here. And we'll take the front plastic mount, slide that in. Now we can take our screws and again, these are going into the plastic mount, so they're self-threading screws, so make sure you get them in the same threads, because if you don't, they'll cut new threads and they'll cut the good threads out that's already in there, and you have a problem then because they'll be stripped out. Just check these bottom ones even though we didn't take them loose. Okay, now if you remember, we had this little bracket here that goes on. If I can remember how that went on. And I don't remember how it went on. Had to go on like that. Because the screw is on this side. It can't go on that way. Could go on that way. No, but it don't look like it was on that way. So this way, it's like a puzzle. You just have to keep moving it around till you find a place where you can match up the witness marks that's on here. And it has to line up with the mounting hole right here where it mounts back onto the chassis. That looks like it does. Okay. back on. Now, one more thing. The horizontal width coil. Since it's mounted on this plate, we can solder it back here. So, let me zoom in on that. Now, if you remember in the video where we took this apart, I put this tie strap on the one that went closest to the metal bracket here. So we'll put this one back on first. Okay, now we bring the other one around here. Put a little bend in it here. Matter of fact, I can put that on and hold it in place. Add a little new solder to that. And there we go. Horizontal width coil is back soldered on. And I'm going to go ahead and clip this tie wrap. We don't need it. It served its purpose. Okay. Okay, we are done with the main PC board. So now we can start on the other cards that plug into it. Okay, one more thing I forgot about, the neck board. We have the wire right here where the dag hooks up. I went ahead and cut that because it was soldered on. So now is the time to go ahead and clean that off and get that old piece of wire off of there. So let me see if I can get a little bit of the solder off of here first. Okay, I grab onto the wire that's sticking through the back here. Alright, heat it up and pull it right off. Now we'll be able to solder that dag wire back on. Also, there's quite a few plugs on here that could develop cold solder joints. We have this plug here, this plug, and this other plug right here. So let's go ahead and reflow those while we're at it. Everything on a monitor should get reflowed, because sooner or later it's going to cause you a problem. And yeah, I decided to leave them plugged in. I don't want any pins shifting and falling out. Now, do I reflow the CRT socket? You know what? Sometimes you do have to, but this one is looking real good, and sometimes you just best leave well enough alone. I'm looking over all these other solder joints here. Even these big resistors right here, which I'm sure get hot. And sometimes, you know, you can have bad joints on them as well, but they all look good. So I'm going to leave well enough alone. I think we've gone far enough. Okay, finally, we're done with the main board, which happens to have the neck board and the flyback on it. Okay, now we'll come to a little easier part. This right here is the video interface board. This is the one where the output of the board, the red, green, blue, the video ground, and the sync wires from the board plug into the monitor. And it has these to plug-in sockets on the bottom here that plug into the main board. So we're going to have to reflow the headers on these. We're going to have to reflow this header. We're also going to have to reflow this header right here. And we have a big old whopping 1 capacitor on this board. Now some of these boards has 2 capacitors. This is C201 that's on this board, which is a 1000 microfarad at 35 volt. Some boards have C202, which is a 470 at 35 volts. This board is unpopulated, so it's not needed on this board. So we don't have to worry about that. Now this is the black level pot. Most of the time you're recommended to change that pot. But I was having no trouble with this monitor, and I don't have one of those pots. I didn't order one because I didn't think I needed a cap kit. So I'm not going to replace it at this time. If it gives me problems down the road, this is a pull-out card. I can easily go in the back of the monitor, pull this card out, and put a pot in at any time. So I'm not too worried about that. So first let's go ahead and pull this cap off and put the new cap on it. This is going to be a real easy one. Okay. It resoldered itself to it. Alright, this is C201. C201. 1000 microfarad at 35 volts. The old one is 1000 at 16 volts. So that's an upgrade. And yeah, I did notice that the positive and negative are correct on the board. So that was easy enough. One cap. Now let's go ahead and reflow these pins. Okay, it's those. Now let's reflow these. Okay. Now let's reflow these. One more set. Okay, that's all the header pins. I could reflow the pot, but those connections look good on that pot. I'm not going to bother it. If I have to replace the pot, then I'll worry about it then. Okay. Well, the video interface board is done. So, there's one more down. Well, let's do the next one. This one's going to be a little more involved. This is the vertical horizontal XY board. And reason it's called that, I guess, is because it has the vertical size pot, the vertical hold pot, and the horizontal hold pot. It has the horizontal frequency. This is the little pot that everybody misses because it's sort of, when it's in the monitor, it's kind of hidden. And this is the one that if your game has a lot of horizontal lines scrolling across the screen tightly together, this is your horizontal frequency. That's the one you need to adjust. And this is the one where you need that long non-metal screwdriver to stick in through the chassis. It's got a hole in the chassis next to this board. And you have to stick it in that hole to get it to go to that adjustment right there. So that's the one everybody always misses. And they think, what's wrong with my monitor? Why is it all messed up like the sink is all messed up? Well, horizontal frequency needs to be adjusted. Okay, so we got a few caps on this one. And then these two headers right here. So let's go ahead and get started on it. All right, it looks like it's got 8 capacitors on this one. So let's start with C306. Let's see if we can find it here. Again, we just have to search for it because I don't have a cap map. Okay, C306, right here. And these have Jamicon capacitors on them too, just like the other boards. So, yeah, I'm thinking these are original. Okay, let's see. It's the only cap there, so that's got to be it right there. Okay, positive is marked on this, and it is correct according to this. It's a 2.2 at 50 volts. So we're replacing it with a 2.2 at 50 volts. C306 right here. .2 at 50 volts. Okay, where did that booger come from? It was next to the horizontal frequency adjustment. And there it is. There's the positive mark. Okay, C306, we can mark that off. On the video interface board, I forgot to mark that off, so I'll mark that one off there. All right, next is C313. Let's see if we can find that. 313, looking me in the face, right here. All right, it's marked on the board here, and it's correct. Correct on both sides. All right, this 47 at 50 volt, 47 at 50 volt, C313. Here it is right here, 47 at 50 volt. And we're gonna have to cut these things off again. There we go again. You know what? I'm just going to clip them off. Heck with that tape. Okay. C313. Makes them a little shorter, but I can deal with it. Let's see, right there. All right. Mark off C313. All right. C359. Let's see if we can find that. $3.59 right here. And positive side is marked. Come on, get loose. There we go. So it is marked correctly. 4.7 at 160. And we got a 4.7 at 250 we're replacing it with. All right, so that's C359. C359. 4.7 at 250. Okay. I sure don't want to focus tonight. Don't know what the deal is. Okay, C359 is off the list. Next, let's do C310, 22 at 50 volts. C310. Okay, where you at? I wonder if it's just a big fat one right here. I can't see a number underneath it. So 4.7 at 250. No, this is supposed to be a 22. C310. Can this be another one that's not on the board? because I sure don't see it. I see 311. No, that's 309. That's 311 there. C310. See if I can see it on the bottom of the board. It's 315. .13, 311, 309, C310, right here. Yeah, it's kind of hiding the number. Can't really see it. All right, there's that booger right there. Okay. It is marked on the board, and it is correct. 22 at 25 volt is what come out of it. And we're replacing it with a 22 at 50 volt C310, which is right here. Okay, it's the right direction. Okay, C310. All right, next, C315. I remember seeing that. Here it is right here. C315. And it is marked on the board positive side. That's good. And there it is right there, I think. Yep, marked positive. This is a different brand. It's hard to read it. It's so small, but it looks like Mercon. Okay. Here's a 10 microfarad at 25 volt. And we're going to replace it with a 10 microfarad at 50 volt. So 315. All right, it's one of these. And again, boy, I'm just going to cut that off. Okay. Only thing when you cut them off like that, make the wires the same size. You know, uncut, the positive is always longer, so you just got to make double sure you put the positive in the right hole. But that's not a big problem. Okay, we can mark C315 off the list. Next is C362. Okay, 362. Let's find what that is. .362, right there. All right. And it is marked correctly for the positive side. I don't see any markings on the bottom side. That looks like it right there. I believe this is stopped up. Yep. There we go. Okay. 10 microfarads at 50 volt. Again, it's a Jamicon. So that is C652, 10 microfarads at 50 volts. 10 microfarads at 50 volts. Again, I'm going to clip it off. C362. Yeah. Okay, we can mark 362 off the list. Next is 311. Where is 311? I know I've seen that one. At least I thought I did. That's a big one, so it's got to be this one right here. C311. It's written on the bottom. I can't see nothing on the top side because I guess the capacitor is so big it's probably hidden underneath it. So no, actually it's written way up here. C311. That's it right there because it's under the bottom here. C311 right there. And it's a big sucker here. So, all right. All right. It's marked positive on this side. That's correct. It is marked on the bottom side there. So, all right. 1,000 microfarad at 35 volts. 1,000 microfarad at 35 volts. Okay, we'll mark C311 off the list. Alright. Now we gotta find C356. C356. Okay, where you at? There ought to be one I haven't changed yet. There it is, that's one right there. I recognize it because it's not brown like the ones I'm putting in. It looks like another one of those Jamicons. Yep, that's it. 356 right there. And it is marked correct on the board for the positive side. But it don't look like it's marked on the back side at all. But they look like it right there. So let's find out. Okay. That's correct. 4.7 at 50 volt. 4.7 at 50 volts. C356. Yep, that's correct. Okay. These had a crazy bend on them from the factory, and they're too wide, so I need to straighten them out. Okay, should be more manageable. Make sure I get positive into positive, negative into negative. So we don't want to see any fireworks when I go to powering this thing up. Okay, I ain't sure that one is supposed to touch the other one there. I might have to look that over. Let me solder this one. And then I'm going to desolder the one I just soldered. And take a look. And make sure it's not supposed to be touching this other one. If it is, that's fine. Yeah, they're part of the same circuit, so it doesn't matter. I just don't want to create a solder bridge. Sometimes if you're looking at it and you think, well, did I create a solder bridge? Suck the solder off of it and look, and you know, it'll be easier to tell. In this case, it's supposed to be. It's okay if they're bridged together because they're on the same trace. But like I say, you always want to make sure, because bad things happen if sometimes if you short a trace together. It's not supposed to be. Okay, that's all done. Mark off C356. And that finishes the vertical horizontal XY board as far as caps go. Now we need to reflow the headers. And let's see. And I'll look over the base of the pots too, but I don't think I'm going to put any heat on the pots, because I'm not replacing any of the pots. As long as they don't have a cold solder joint, I'm leaving them well enough alone. Okay, they look okay. There's a transistor on the heat sink here. Check that. All those solder joints look good. So all I'm going to do is touch up these headers right here. And these headers, they're all looking good anyway. I don't see any signs of any cracked solder joints. But we're not going to take any chances. Okay. They all done, they look good. So one big terminal right here. Solder looks good on that. Okay, we're all done with that. One more board left. And this is the power board, which I believe this is the regulator. 2SC1454. This also has the voltage adjustment pot right here that adjusts to B plus voltage. So when we put the monitor back together, we're going to check the B plus voltage, and if we have to adjust it, you adjust it with that pot right there. But this pot here, see the red gook on it? That's the factory, it's been factory adjusted. It hasn't been moved. It's still got the little paint they put on it so that they can tell whether anybody's been tweaking with it. It's still got the original on it, so it's never been adjusted. Okay, and looking at these header pins right here, one of them looks a little suspicious. And one right there. You can kind of see a ring around it, but then that could just be flux. And that one right there looks the same. So, yeah, we'll reflow those two. But first, let's put the caps on here. It looks like it has two caps. It has 3 in the kit, but it looks like this board has only got 2. Looks like one of them is not populated. Let's see, which one is that? C551. It's not populated, or is that C502? No. It's got a 501 and a 503 and a 551. So this is the 503. And this is the 501. So the 551 is not used in this one. All right, well, let's start with C501, which is this one right here. And that one is marked positive and negative, and it looks right. Okay, there it is. This is also a Jamicon. 10 microfarad at 160 volts, and the kit has a 10 microfarads at 250. C501. Yep, here it is, 10 microfarads at 250 volts. So I'm going to go ahead and, again, clip that off. And it's positive and it's negative. Yep, that's the way it goes. Okay, C501, we can mark off the list. C503, 22 at 50 volts. And that's got to be the only other one that's on here. Right here. And let's see, positive and negative is correct on that. It's also a Jamico. So 503. And it's supposed to be a 22 at 50 volts. 22 at 50 volts. Positive and negative. Okay, and since C551 is not used on this board, because here's 551 where it's supposed to be, and if we go to the other side, it's blank. It's not there, so we're not going to put it in. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and solder these headers. This one's bent over. I guess they bent it over to hold it in place. Okay. And these two right here are pins that the wires go to the regulator on. I'm not going to bother those either. There's no pressure on those. Not like a plug. Everything else looks okay. So, we did 503 and there is no C551. Well, we are done with the cap kit. soldering equipment off. Now, I bet you're saying, he forgot something. No, I ain't forgot. We're going to do it right now. What did I forget? Or you think I forgot? Clean the flux off the boards. All right. Okay, I always lose my flux brush. Spray it down with some alcohol. Okay, that one's done. Let's do the XY boards. Of course, you can use anything that'll work for this. Denatured alcohol works nice. Probably better than this rubbing alcohol. And if you want to spend $1, it's very expensive, but they do have flux removers and aerosol cans. So there's that option. But I'll just go with the plain old rubbing alcohol or whatever I got at the time. There's something you can buy in an auto parts store. It's not too awful expensive. CRC, I believe, makes it. And it's electrical cleaner. And that stuff works well. It's in an aerosol can. But I don't have any right now. This board had a lot of flux on it to start with anyway. Some of it's coming off, but that'll be good enough. And last but not least, this board don't look too bad, but we did reflow these headers. Put one big cap on it here. And it too already had some flux on it, where they never cleaned off from the factory. Unless somebody had touched that or replaced that black level pop before, but it looks original, so I don't think nobody did. Okay, I'll just let these air dry overnight, and this is going to conclude this part of the video. If anybody is still watching, I know this is a rather long video, but this is what it takes to do a cap kit on a 4600. So we got all the boards done now. All the caps are replaced. The boards are cleaned up. We're just letting them air dry. And I'll come back tomorrow and we'll reassemble everything. I'm debating on whether to go ahead and put these boards in before I even put it back into the chassis. I believe I'll be able to, since we don't have to worry about the horizontal width coil now, because we know that that is on the main board chassis. The metal bracket that in the main board screws onto. Right here, so we don't have to worry about soldering this back on, so it doesn't matter if the cards are in here. And of course this is the flyback transformer right here, and the anode cup. So yeah, I think we'll probably go ahead and put all the boards on here and put it all together. That way when we slide it in the chassis, all we'll have to do is put those two screws in, and then we'll still have to plug in the gauze cable, hook up the DAG, which is the ground to the tube, and it's another ground wire here. So yep, I think that'll do it. So if you enjoyed this video, if you got something out of it, please subscribe to the channel. Like, share, subscribe, and we'll be back with part 3 of reinstalling the chassis back into the tube and the frame in the game, and firing it up and seeing if we have to readjust anything, check the B+ voltage, and hopefully we're going to have a fresh monitor in an old game. So we're on our way to another arcade fix. Have you had your arcade fix today?